Everybody, welcome to Grok.IT, episode 7 on, May 17th, 2013. Glad you guys could all join us this lovely, lovely day. With me, of course, usually my co-host Spot.
Hello.
And we have a surprise guest co-host. You want to say your name, sweet thing?
I'm Josh.
Yay! Surprise!
Surprise! Somebody likes us enough to join us. Or we bribed him.
He was bribed.
Speaking of money, Nintendo is targeting users' YouTube videos like their Let's Play videos for monetization.
I find this extremely corporate short-sightedness.
I know you're a huge fan of Let's Play stuff. I like Let's Play stuff, but I was never a big watcher. I think it's a bad move on their part.
It's an extremely bad move on their part. I mean, look, here's what it comes down to. You have people who are pushing their content, and other people are watching it, and then they want to go play it, okay? And the really sad part about this is Nintendo's like, oh, no, we love it when people do that. That's great. Just keep doing that. What we're going to do is we're going to take all the advertising profit from it, but please keep doing that. And it's like, really? You think all these LPers are going to sit there and go, oh, I'm going to keep producing all this content and editing it correctly and working on, how I'm producing this show and everything so that you can take all the advertising dollars? No, they're going to do exactly like the gentleman in the article was talking about, where he's not going to do any Nintendo-related content anymore.
Yeah, especially because one of the big things that they said was so they could place that. So I'm wondering if they're going to ask Google or YouTube to place specific ads onto the content.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they might, and that's fine, but the whole thing is that, YouTube will allow a channel owner to sell their own ads if they want.
Yeah.
That's really not the point, I think, of this that I see. It's that the person who's actually creating the content isn't getting any of it. And so, in fact, I think the gentleman in the article actually said, he creates these shows. It's not just the game. In fact, a lot of it is not just the game. That's why, and we know that's true, actually, right? Because that's why there's really popular LP channels, and they may be using the same exact games and the same exact base content as other LP channels, which are not near as big as they are. Why? Because the production quality of certain LP channels are much higher, and that has to do completely with the content creator, not the base game, or we would see it more averaged out.
Well, and one of the things I found funny is they're trying to paint themselves as this big hero. Like, when they say we continually want our fans to enjoy sharing Nintendo content on YouTube.
That's BS.
Yeah, and that's why, unlike other entertainment companies, we have chosen not to block people using our intellectual property. It's like, really? Don't try and paint yourself as
actually,
this.
I think that's worse.
Yeah.
I think it would very well be that they're trying to block the content without looking like the asshole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but if they just blocked it, it would actually be better. It's not like they're blocking it. They're like, oh, we see that you're working at this and you're using something that's kind of ours. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our ownership of that, and we want you to keep working, but we're going to take your paycheck. Because they don't want to block them. They want them to keep going, and they want to take all the ad profit from it. Because they could have actually served them with a copyright notice, which would have actually taken the video down, but they didn't serve them with a copyright notice. They actually served them with, what was it? It was the...
Content ID match claim.
Yeah, Content ID match, which only says, oh, this is ours, so we want all the ad money from it.
It seems like it would be easier for them to just go out and hire the people that are getting the most ad content and give them a job.
Sure, actually, yeah, that would be great.
Sponsor the channel themselves, you know what I'm saying?
I think that this is like holdover, and we keep seeing this and for some reason the game industry, you would think because it's more of a younger generation that a lot of the actual corporations would have more of a clue, but for some reason they seem to be hiring like ad executives and attorneys that don't have any idea about the trenches, more or less, and they keep making these decisions like it's still 1980, and it's one of those things where media is changing, and so what you're doing is you are literally slapping a large portion of the industry, which they don't think they're industry, but they are. If you're Total Biscuit and you have 1 million subscribers on YouTube, you are industry. Sorry. If you have 500,000 subscribers, you are YouTube. What's funny is that I recently read a little piece of information. PC Gamer, the magazine, has 47,000 subscriptions. 47,000. That is absolutely nothing. But they're considered industry. But you go to a YouTube channel that has 200 or 250 or 300,000, they're not considered industry. And that's really ridiculous. And there's a serious problem. And I think that Nintendo is shooting themselves in the foot here.
Definitely.
So, I totally agree.
Yeah. Now, as far as understanding their demographic, which is good, EA has decided to kill their online pass program, which actually, I'll just say outright, I never thought was a horrible idea. I mean, look, publishers have been dealing with for a while with secondhand game issues. That's why we see stuff like the PlayStation 4 saying that, when you get a game, it's going to be linked to your PlayStation Network account and it's not going to be able to be used anywhere else. Yeah. Because secondhand stuff, they get nothing from secondhand stuff. And to be perfectly honest, the actual secondhand retailers like GameStop have been pretty much assholes over the whole thing. And I don't blame the large publishers at all for taking a swing at them. Not in the least. Now, I think the consumer kind of, gets hurt in this a bit, but I can't blame them. And I think the online pass program was an interesting idea. Offer more services online that you can only get if you have a first tier buy of the game, or you have to pay for this online pass. I think that's a good idea. It was probably implementation problems.
I think a big thing is people aren't really looking at the possibility, like, I would much rather pay $10 than be a forced deal, like, always online deal. And so you think about it, and this is what they do, the whole, like, always online, can't play secondhand games. People freak out about that. But it's like, okay, what would you rather have? $10 and then you get to play online, or you have to buy it new. They tried doing $10 always online and everybody freaked out about it. And so now you are getting people who are going to be going with, you have to play it new, otherwise you can't. And people are going to freak out about that. And, I view secondhand games as you stealing from the developers. You are getting something for, without paying the people who made it. You're paying someone else. That's like if someone takes a DVD and burns it and then you buy it from him, that is the exact same thing.
Yes, as long as it's not a situation where there's certain things you can't get, which is kind of what this was, without paying, and that's why I think it's okay. There's a lot of people who, this goes back to what we were talking about in a previous episode, which I believe got cut, but about online ad blockers. Same thing. If you run an online ad blocker, you're stealing because you're taking something for nothing. Now, this isn't exactly a nothing, because the weight of the having to pay the right person is not on the consumer necessarily. It's on the retailer, which is what I was mentioning is a problem. I find stuff like this to be a purely defensive move on the publisher's part, and I personally have no problem with it.
Well, I don't see a problem with it. I think more what they ran into problems with is getting enough people to do it, just because once a game has been launched and has been out for a while, the online parts of the content generally are not as satisfying because the user base isn't there anymore. People get tired of playing the game, and so you don't have the population in the online environments that you have when a game first launches. So the question is, why would I pay $10 for a community that's dying?
Yeah. If you get someone that buys Battlefield 2, and that they're going to play it until Battlefield 3 comes out, and by the time Battlefield 3 comes out, you're not going to want to buy Battlefield 2 and pay to play it online. I think that in a lot of cases...
It's a failure on the publisher's part to actually maintain their online environments, their online communities, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, it's one of those things where it depends. I think the bigger the online community potential is, the more they want to move everyone to the new thing, right? So if it is Battlefield 2, or if it's Medal of Honor, Modern Warfare 2, when Battlefield 3 comes out, or Modern Warfare 3 comes out, they want to move people to the new platform because people pay for it.
So another little thing that I found, it's money related, of course, is Vivendi is trying... Vivendi? I don't know how you say it.
It's French.
Yeah, whatever, who cares? It's French. Is looking to sell Activision Blizzard, which...
Still.
They've been trying to sell it for, 1-2 years now? Which, it's understandable they're trying to sell it while they can still make money off of it. But, World of Warcraft alone brings in $120 million a month before expenses. So, I don't know how much Activision brings in, but, yeah, they're trying to sell it for $8 billion. And I know Activision Blizzard has pretty much come out and said that they want to use some of their stockpiled cash reserves to buy back a chunk of themselves. I'm curious if they're going to buy back to make it so Vivendi has under 50% or so.
Mm-hmm. Because then they would have complete control.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Well, they're currently sitting at a market cap of 16.6 billion. So that's actually what's interesting is Activision Blizzard has a market cap of 16.6 billion, and EA has a market cap of 6.6.
Yeah, it's a huge company. So, Spot, you just finished the Medal of Honor 2010, didn't you?
I did.
What did you think of it?
At your suggestion. Actually, I'll tell you a little short story about this. I got it on a sale on Steam. Like, I got most of my stuff. And I installed it. This was like, I don't know, 6 months ago. And I played like the first mission or so, and I was like, this is not too great. And when we were talking about it a few weeks ago, and you had said you really liked the single player and how the reason it got such bad reviews were the multiplayer not being what everyone wanted. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, and I tried to think back about why I didn't like the single player. And I'm like thinking, I can't remember why I didn't like it. Actually, I think I enjoyed it a little bit. So I decided to install it again. So I did. And I have to say, I really like story stuff, right? I like on military storyline stuff, especially modern military storyline is great. I really like World War II, but even modern stuff. And it is like the best, in my personal opinion, the best single-player military game I've played in a long time. The story was amazing. There were some parts in that gameplay that I actually got chills. And at one point, I actually teared up because it got me to a point where I was so stressed out for about 30 seconds and then relieved it in such an amazing way that I was like, oh my God, that was awesome. And I haven't done that with a game in a long time. And I have not played Warfighter, but I hear from the same source that I heard about this that it's good.
It is, let me tell you, Warfighter is just plain amazing. Like, they bring in, you know, a lot of the same characters from the Medal of Honor, the first one. And, you know, they bring in some things, like in the last mission they bring up Rabbit. And so it's really good, and they are looking at another aspect of it too, you know, not just the whole like, oh, your special forces like tier 1 team going in.
Don't ruin it for me.
No, I'm not ruining it. Like this isn't ruining it. But they look into the aspects of family life.
Oh, very nice.
And so it's really cool. They really want to humanize the people who go out and do this stuff, and I think they have done a wonderful job. Speaking of like reviews, IGN owns GameSpy, UGO, and 1UP, and the owner of all of those has decided to shut down those 3 smaller sister sites. Which, I mean, it makes total sense. It's kind of sad to see them go because they all each had their unique kind of style and way of looking at things. But I completely understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, actually, this I just find this funny because, as we've talked about before, I'm quite a bit older than you, so I was around when, and I remember GameSpy being like this behemoth, like massive, like the online gaming site was GameSpy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, GameSpy used to be a big deal back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it was just, I remember going to GameSpy to read John Carmack's updates because he would post updates on their server, and GameSpy would pull them in and display them, and that was a great place to read about them because, you know, the industry was so much smaller then, you know, because that was back when, you know, Quake was out and Quake 2 and stuff like that. So GameSpy in general just kind of lost its relevance. That's one reason it moved to news and things like that, but it never did it very well. I don't think they've actually done a site update in about 10 years, to be honest, which I'm sure they probably have now that I've said that. But the last time I looked at it, which was about a year ago, it looked almost identical. And that was my Droid phone saying that because I'm unprofessional and didn't turn it off.
Every episode.
Every episode it happens, I know. That is not an endorsement.
Playing Halo Combat Evolved on the computer, and it was run through GameSpy. Their online multiplayer was like, it had the whole GameSpy logo and everything like that, and that's, you know, that was what, about 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah, it's but see, back then you needed it, right? Because everyone ran their own servers. It was almost unthinkable for an actual development studio or publisher to run their own servers. That was just weird, you know.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that part of the thing that actually moved people towards that is MMOs, because that's what, you know, obviously the company had to host their own servers. That was the whole point, and it kind of like merged this whole thing of, you know, we're doing this, oh well, we could probably offer a much better experience if we hosted the servers ourselves. And then they found out, oh, we can create a walled garden and we can make everyone only use our servers. And ooh, yay, wow, So anyway, also if they host their own servers, then it helps with piracy because you can have private servers. Yay.
Speaking of new games and everything like that, EA.
That was a really crappy segue, by the way.
You know what? Fine.
You're reaching there, man.
Oh my gosh! Why can't you just accept me for who I am and the segues I choose to do?
Well, I do, except when they're crappy segues. You're like, speaking of reality.
Speaking of breathing air, you know those folks who breathe air, the people who.
We're gonna talk about some other people that breathe air.
EA
Please
is.
Continue.
EA is. I'm not even gonna segue. EA is opening up DICE LA to work on the Star Wars IP, which they're getting some of the people from Danger Close, aren't they?
Yes, actually. In fact, those are the first people that were there.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Excited.
Hopefully they got the same writers.
Yay.
But yeah, no, I think this is great. I mean, they're opening up in LA. They're going to start poaching, other people from the industry and other people in LA. Of course, there's no other game companies in LA. Anyway, I'm sure that they'll be trying to swipe some people from
Activision.
Activision, the Call of Duty people, etc. The Infinity Ward is there and Treyarch, and I personally like Treyarch.
Yeah.
But don't like Infinity Ward that much. But yeah, no, I think that this is great. I think it shows a good commitment, which is not surprising. Duh, it's Star Wars. As we said in the last episode, I think that Disney is far more aware or more willing than Lucas ever was to milk the Star Wars brand.
Oh, definitely.
And thus far, as far as gaming and things like that, and even movies, if it's something that Disney feels that they can pour money into, they will do it, and it's not bad. So that's fine. And Josh is going to probably completely agree with us. Disagree with us on this, but I think overall EA has a pretty average to good record on games. I mean, obviously they have failures, they have issues here and there, but overall, I think it's a pretty good, thing.
Well, they have a very long track record, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I'm not a big fan of the fact that that Disney's basically tapped EA to do Star Wars going forward, because I feel like they've had a lot of failures with Star Wars: The Old Republic. So I feel like they're definitely willing to milk money out of the fans any way they can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that the whole Star Wars: The Old Republic is almost a discussion in and of itself. But I think that it was an experiment because it was so expensive. Right, and to be perfectly honest, it's not, as far as the free-to-play stuff and milking, it doesn't seem like it's any worse than most other free-to-play games. And I've noticed that games that are built free-to-play are not as bad at that than games that were built for premium and then converted to free-to-play. About the only MMO I've seen that did a really good job of that would be Lord of the Rings Online. Turbine did a great job of it. Usually, if you go to a game that was built for free-to-play from the beginning, it's much more balanced, would be the word.
Totally.
Yes, Star Wars: The Old Republic seems to have issues with that. But I think that, and this doesn't make it right or justify it, but I think part of it may be the massive money sink it was in development and all the VO that they might be trying to
make some of it back.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
they're actually making quite a bit of money now that they've gone free to play.
Oh, yeah.
And a large part of that is actually not from the free-to-play people, but it's from the subscribers buying things through the cartel store. But they, even in the last update, they released Cathar, which were supposed to be in the expansion. Actually, it was supposed to be released before the end of last year. It didn't happen. They released them as a paid addition to the existing content that came out with the expansion, as opposed to putting them in the expansion themselves. So even if you're a subscriber, even if you've been playing the game and been promised this thing since the beginning, you have to actually spend real money to create a new character that is this race. I totally would understand if they said, hey, if you want to change your race of an existing character, that's something that you could put into the cash store, because it's not expected. But when you release a new race, to just totally go for the money grab like that seems really callous to me, especially for their subscriber base. It seems like they're milking more money out of their subscribers than they really need to.
Yeah.
Because the subscribers are there supporting the game. I mean, the only ones that still subscribe are the ones that are doing so to support the game, not because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that part of the thing there is that the numbers have shown on almost any free-to-play that free-to-play transactions make more money than subscriptions. So they may they may actually try to shortchange subscribers a bit.
I think they do better to just release it as a free-to-play game, or a buy-to-play game like Guild Wars 2, and do away with the subscription model altogether, because then you don't get the feelings like that. Then you expect going into it that you're going to have to pay for these things.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. It is a different model, though, of course. I mean, it's kind of like currently I don't really have the extra funds to spend buying the Secret World, right? Which is now free to play. Well, it's free to buy. But no, I'm sorry. But it's buy to play. But the thing is, I'm not playing it because I can't afford right now that now it's $30 upfront fee. Right? But if it was free to play, it's very possible that I could afford, let's say, $3 this month, and maybe $6 next month, and maybe $5 the next month, right? And work my way up, and they would get me hooked at that point. So, I mean, it is a different model, and I'm sure that they've modeled it out. That's the thing. Now, that doesn't change how the players are getting treated. I don't know. It just here's my thing, and I bring this stuff up on multiple shows when Brandon said this isn't right or blah blah. The problem is that companies are very democratic in that as long as you will let them do it, they'll do it. So as long as people are paying it, they'll do it. If people if they release that new species and they say you have to pay for it, and the majority of the people playing the game are like, you know what, we're not going to pay for it, they won't do that again. And so yeah, I mean, I think that like when BioWare did the thing with Mass Effect 3, which I don't know a lot about because I haven't played it yet, even though I'm a big Mass Effect fan, there was a huge uprising, a huge bunch of stuff, and a lot of people chose not to buy the game because of it. It actually hit their bottom line. And that's what a lot of people just don't seem to understand, even though it's so simple. If you don't hit a company's bottom line, they're not going to care, because that's not their job to care, sadly.
Well, and I personally have.
Well, yeah, see?
I've stopped subscribing. I'm not playing the game anymore. I finally got fed up with it and quit playing, which is a shame because I really enjoyed the game. I love the Star Wars universe. That's going back to EA. That's what scares me about EA doing it, is because they've shown themselves to be an exceptionally greedy company at the expense of the fan base. Yeah. In my opinion.
Speaking, lots of EA news this show. And just one more little bit. EA is developing Frostbite engine for mobile games. I'm excited for that. I guess because so I just got the S4, and so I kind of want something to kind of test it on. I wanna see what it can do.
I kind of wonder why it's taken this long. Unreal has a mobile version of the engine. Unity has an Unreal version of the engine. It's like, hello. It's kind of obvious. Although, really dumb name. Frostbite Go? Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you have an interesting name like Frostbite, and the best mobile version of the name you come up with is Go? Mm-hmm. Okay. Somebody's not getting paid enough. Or getting paid too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great.
So, NASA has come out and pretty much said that after, what's it been, 4 years? The Kepler satellite has been having problems with. But so last week or the week before, they had safe mode, and they're having some problems with the wheels that turn the satellite. So right now they're doing diagnostics and whatnot. Now I'm hoping that they get it all fixed. I don't know if they're able to send up a team if need be to do it, if it's something physical.
Yeah, it's the wheels are it has 4 flywheels, which are actually quite common. They actually rotate the flywheels, and it causes the actual object to counter rotate, and so they can do fine tuning without wasting fuel, because they can turn the wheels electronically. With stored energy as opposed to actual combustible fuel. And one of them went out last year. And this is a second one that's gone out, and it's acting weird. And they're trying... It rebooted into safe mode by itself, actually, which is what it does. And which I don't understand, because Windows, I usually have to reboot to safe mode myself, so whatever. But it did it on a
laptop like mine that just boots into safe mode on its own randomly.
There you go. Yeah. Obviously, this satellite is far more smarter than your laptop. So, no. Actually, your laptop does it automatically. Okay, I'm sorry. So pretty much, this satellite is Josh's Windows laptop. No, that's so mean to the people who built it. No, but yeah, no. It seemed to.
Or Sony.
Funny.
Oh, God.
it rebooted into safe mode, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They did say that if they lose the second wheel completely, that they're going to have some pretty serious issues focusing it how it's supposed to be. In fact, they won't be able to, but they're going to be looking into hybrid options between using thrusters and the wheels that are remaining to do it. But they don't know if that's going to be a problem, and they're looking to put it into point rest state, which will allow it to more or less sit in a contactable position for up to a few years on the remaining fuel, which will allow them to deal with whatever they do in a calm and collected manner. Now, I would just like to point out that something about this that's interesting is that this mission cost $500 million. It's about $550 million. Actually, that's just what the satellite cost. The whole mission total was probably about $1 billion, and it did actually meet the end of its mission. That was actually last year, and so this was actually an extended mission. I kind of worry about this stuff because obviously when they are estimating how much something's going to cost, I can almost guarantee you the extended mission results are calculated into that estimate. And so it actually could kind of throw off the cost-value ratio. And hopefully this doesn't negatively impact future possible propositions for missions, because, I mean, NASA has had a decidedly really good history on extended missions. I mean, you look at the rovers on Mars, and they're still going along. Yeah, exactly, Hubble. And so, which we have something coming up about that, which is kind of funny. So hopefully this doesn't hurt future stuff. You know, we know how, like, senators and congressmen like to go, but what about that thing with the thing with the thing? And we're like, you don't really understand anything about that, do you? They're like, no, but I'm up here, so blah, 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 blah. So anyway, we'll see. I would like to point out one other thing, that none of this matters, because the most interesting thing about this, and probably this entire show, maybe this month or year, is that we have actually found something. That something being the point rest state that we spoke of, as being the only thing ever that Google has no idea what it is.
Yeah.
This is true. I was looking, Spot asked me, do you know what a point rest state is? Because obviously I hadn't read the article yet beforehand, and and I told him no. And so immediately I went to go Google it, and Google had no idea what it was either. In fact, it didn't even come up with the articles that we were reviewing.
Yeah, no. Before I asked, I went to Google it, and Google came back and said, "What you talking about, Willis?"
I had to put point rest state in quotations for it to find the article that you were talking about, which I already had up in another tab.
So that didn't do you any good, did it?
No.
Wow, it's amazing to find something that Google is so unhelpful with.
Dang it, Google.
And because Google executives listen to this podcast, we just want to tell you guys, you need to get to work on this, because there's something wrong. Speaking of Hubble, NASA actually got the donation of some multiple satellites from the National Reconnaissance Organization, this is just funny. I mean, it's kind of cool but funny. They're spy satellites, and it's really great that they're admitting they're spy satellites, because these things were actually built for this NRO project, which actually got canceled, and NASA got a hold of them, and that's great. And okay, so this satellite is, and they want to put it around Mars. At least a few groups want to put it around Mars, because NASA asked, where should we put this? Yay! Pretty much it has the same optics power as the Hubble, so we know what the Hubble can see, except that it's built to look at Earth. And
there were two of them.
Yes, exactly.
Well, at least two of them, because they donated two of them.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. At least. But it has a much wider field of view than the Hubble does, because it's made to look at something far closer. And so they're thinking about putting it around Mars, which could be really cool. And I think one of the great things about having a spy satellite around Mars is that, just to be sure and check up, NASA can read Curiosity's license plate.
Oh, nope, the tags were still good. Good to go.
Yep. There you go.
Well, what's a little scarier to me is that if they donated these two that have that kind of capability, what else is up in space we don't know about?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. There's probably so much stuff up there that I try not to even think about it, because I might get too many chills and die a chill death. I don't know.
Get our tinfoil hats out and just go at it.
Speaking of tinfoil hats and things like our privacy, turns out that of all people, Larry Page has been hit up by Congress about the possible privacy concerns with the Google Glass, which I'm just going to throw out there real quick. I was wondering when this was going to come up, because
Yeah.
okay, there's some serious issues here. Although, and I'm going to let you talk about it, but I wonder where, as far as people being recorded, this falls into like whatever laws cover people on like handy cams. I mean, if you have a handy cam out with your family at the beach, you don't have to go around and get like model release forms from every person on the beach that happen to be in the field of view, as long as it's not being used for any commercial stuff. I'm more interested in the face recognition stuff.
Definitely. Well, I don't know. I don't see what the big deal is. It's the same stuff that, walk around with an Android device, and there's no big issues with that. Well, then what's the big issue with this?
I think it's different. Like with an Android device, right? If I'm sitting across the room from you and I look at you and you're looking at me and you hold up your Android device like you're taking a picture, I have a pretty good idea that you may be taking a picture of me.
I mean, I get that. Yeah, I understand that aspect, but I think they're just trying to drum up, like, oh, I don't know.
Well, okay, first of all, it's their job to ask this particular committee.
Okay, but think about it, it's Congress. How much do they really...
Well, sure. I mean, but the whole thing is actually, their wording was quite funny. They actually said they wonder how Google plans to prevent Google Glass from unintentionally collecting data about the user, which is funny considering that Google's had this issue with their Street View cars collecting Wi-Fi data. Here and in Europe and blah blah, and so it's one of those things where this, I believe, has Wi-Fi on it. It could collect Wi-Fi data. It could also do a bunch of other stuff. It could do face recognition. It could stream video data. When it has a connection, all types of stuff. So it's a what's funny about it that I kind of think is, I think the biggest issue with privacy is the government using it to track people. And it's funny that the government's the one asking. So
I mean, I feel like a real simple solution is put a small light on it that says, oh, hey, that goes on whenever it's taking a picture or recording.
Yeah, that might be good. Yeah, but like as far as Google's concerned, I wouldn't put it past them to do things like take pictures at indiscriminate moments where they use those to decide what to to give you better advertising. It's
definitely.
Google, so everything gets back to advertising. So
as always, we love to hear your comments and telling us how we're wrong and horrible people and everything like that. So leave a comment, video response, whatever you want. Email, yes, the email is down below. And if you want, record yourself and email us a link, upload it to like SoundCloud or Dropbox, and email us a link to it if you want to be a guest host, and we will definitely take a listen and let you know. And of course a way to get back to you. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's it. Thanks, Josh. It was fun.
No problem, man.
Have a good day, everybody.